Hello, all. Huge apologies for the lateness. We were experiencing some technicality issues here from our studio as well as from one of our guests. But now we're here and ready to share with you all the findings of our special RCBI report. So, first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to this special conversation. It's hosted by Global Citizen Solutions. We will be launching our brand new global RCBI report. It is the most comprehensive data driven ranking of residency and citizenship by investment programs across 38 countries. And to help us reflect on these findings, I am very honored to present three leading voices changing the global conversation around mobility, citizenship, and economic strategy. We will begin with Dr. Laura Madrid, lead researcher of the Global Citizen Solutions Intelligence Unit team and the mind behind the 2025 Global RCBI report. Then we will turn to Dr. Yossi Harpaz, sociologist, postdoctoral fellow at Harvard, and assistant professor at Tel Aviv University. Dr. Yossi's work unpacked the rise of dual citizenship as both a statecraft strategy and the personal safety net in times of global uncertainty. And then finally, we welcome Dr. Andrés Solimano, founder and president of the International Center for Globalization and Development. Dr. Solimano brings a very welcome economist perspective to the potential and the challenges of investment migration in a shifting global economy. Both Yossi's and Solimano's contribution to our report are available at the Global Intelligence Unit website, and our production team will share the link with you shortly. But before we delve into the RCBI report, I want to address the elephant in the room. I will take advantage of our specialists here and ask them about the recent European Court justice ruling affecting the Malta's Exceptional Investor Naturalization Program, also known as MAIN. I'll start with Laura. Hi, Dr. Laura. Can you give us a quick historical timeline on the ECJ court decision?
Yes, of course. But first of all, thank you, Giselle, for having me here. I'm glad to be here to launch the report. Of course, we need to address as you said, the elephant in the room. And I have to tell you that, the scrutiny of the European Commission on CBI programs in Europe is is running for some time. In 2017, the Commission expressed concerns about investor and citizenship schemes, highlighting potential risks of money laundering, security, and tax evasion. The Commission in 2019 published a report about CBI programs in Europe, and in 2020 started infringement proceedings against Malta and Cyprus. But in November 2020, Malta totally reformed its program, transitioning from this individual investor program, the IPP, to a new framework, officially known, as you said, as Maltese Exceptional Investor Naturalization Scheme. And since then, it's even difficult to classify the Maltese scheme as a CBI scheme because it requires much more integration. The source of contribution is not only financial. Applicants need to live in the country at least 12 months to be able to acquire the citizenship, and the investments are directed to the government to foster and finance healthcare, education system, and other public services in Malta. Although this repurpose of the scheme happened in 2020, in 2023, the Commission decided to refer Malta's main program to the European Court of Justice, citing that the program violated EU law by not respecting mutual trust and sincere cooperation principles. And finally, and the 29th of April 2025, against the opinion of the General Advocate Collins of the European Court of Justice, the court decided that the main program violated European law. And we are now expecting to see the impact of this decision in the Malta CBI or main program.
Thanks, Laura. This was really good and a very thorough overview. And I know you've been writing about the ECJ court decision for quite a while. Now I want to ask Professor Yossi, and I know Dr. Solimano was having some issues with his connection, so I don't know if he can hear me. But if he can, I will ask him the same question. So I want to know, Dr. Yossi, do we know what will happen to Malta's program and how it will affect investors?
Hi, thanks for having me here. I don't have the the inside information on the legal developments and and whether the legal battle is going to be decided in favor of the European Commission or Malta. So, in other words, what's going to happen with this program in the end? It does look like, as Laura has suggested, that it would be possible for Malta to tweak the program in a way that would comply with requirements. So I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't rush to bury it. I think it is salvageable, but it depends on political will from the Maltese government.
Thank you. So I don't know if Dr. Solimano has listened to our conversation now. Yeah, Guilherme, could you unmute him, please? You can speak. You may speak. Bear with us.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you listen to me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Well, there is a ruling of the EU Court of Justice declaring that the program with Malta, the investment migration program with Malta, will have to be closed. This is not in line on what was the recommendation of the Attorney General last year in October. But this is a reality, and I think the government of Malta will have to go and close the program. It's the only program that was left in Europe. So because the Bulgaria and the Cyprus program was closed, I don't know what much to say. Probably the governments in Europe in the investment migration program will have to concentrate only on residence programs.
Thank you. I think it's unanimous now that we don't know what the next steps are. We are still waiting to see the next development. But I would like to ask you guys if this decision might shift tendencies in citizenship and investment migration, especially in Europe. Dr. Yossi?
Yeah, I think the field is quite diverse because at the same time that we see some programs closing, for example, the British residence by investment program closed a couple of years back. We also have the Turkish citizenship by investment program, which has been extremely successful, especially after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and they have given out citizenship to more than 40,000 people. So obviously there is demand and there is money that can go to countries that offered citizenship by investment. So it's quite likely that some new countries or some countries are going to take advantage of this possibility. And of course, the most famous case is the United States, where where President Trump has said that he wants to create a new golden passport program where they will sell U.S. citizenship for $5 million. So again, I think there will be some governments that will retreat from the path of residence or citizenship by investment, but there will be some new countries that will pick it up. So again, this is something that's going to stay with us.
Giselle,
Laura, yes.
if I can add a takeaway about the European landscape. On the 30th of April, Malta released its official statement about the decision, and they said they are studying the legal implications in detail to give to the applicants more detailed transitional proposal. But they also said that they plan to adjust the regulatory framework on citizenship to align with the principles outlined in the judgment, the ECJ judgment. And what I understand is that maybe countries will align their programs to try to build a framework that is more related to naturalization than to CBI as a classical definition of CBI. So countries might require more like residency time before releasing the citizenship rights, or contributions that go far beyond financial contributions, and then we can be experiencing a new shape of RCBI schemes in Europe. And of course, as Yossi said, RBI schemes are up and running in the EU, including the Malta Residency by Investment program.
Hi, sorry, back. We also speaking to Dr. Solimano here to try and fix his sound here. But whilst this is not happening, and be mindful also of you who's waiting for about 10 minutes for us to speak, I want to jump straight into the RCBI report. So we had to talk about Malta, so this is out of the way. So let's see what's going to unfold in the next couple of months. But Laura, since we started talking about residency by investment, we talked about the main program now. I think we went ahead without explaining some simple concepts, and I'd like you to do this now. If you could please summarize RBI, CBI, and entrepreneur visa, please.
Sure, of course. Yes, we were discussing the situation in Malta, but we didn't define those abbreviations. So CBI, or Citizenship by Investment programs, they allow individuals to acquire citizenship in a country by making significant contributions, usually financial contributions, typically through investing in real estate, government bonds, or national development funds. The programs provide full citizenship rights since the beginning, including, of course, passport, the ability to live and work and study in the country of the host country. RBI programs, on the other hand, they are residency by investment programs, commonly known as golden visas, and they enable individuals to obtain legal residency in a country by making, again, financial contributions. And the investments also take different forms. You can invest in real estate, in creating or moving your business to the host country, or again contributing to government bonds and development funds. CBI, they will give you the right to reside in the country, but they do not automatically confer citizenship. However, many of these residency by investment programs will allow the applicant to file a citizenship application in a certain period of residency. Some countries like Canada will require 3 years, Portugal 5 years, and other countries will require more time to apply to citizenship. And usually they will require also you to take a language exam and a social historical exam. Portugal, Greece, and Italy in the EU have very popular RBI programs. And finally, what we call entrepreneurial visas are programs designed for individuals that want to establish a business in the the host country, or they will actually establish their residency in the country. We are talking about more active investment when we talk about entrepreneur visas. But of course, the lines are a bit gray between residency by investment and entrepreneur visas, because some countries are now trying to align the contributions applicants do to social development and to the state goals and objectives when they think about development. But some examples of entrepreneur visas we can cite, for instance, the US EB5 investor program and the Canada startup visa.
Thank you, Laura. Since we're talking about citizenship, Professor Harpaz, you describe dual citizenship as evolving from a symbol of political bigamy to a strategic tool for both individuals and states. What do you think was the turning point in this shift, and how has it redefined what it means to belong to a nation today?
Yeah, so it's been a dramatic change. For most of the 19th and 20th centuries, dual citizenship was prohibited by law, and it was also often seen as some kind of aberration, some kind of anomaly, something that's also morally dubious. And this is where this term of political bigamy comes from. I would say the turning point would be at the end of the Cold War, so the early 1990s. And this is around the time that we start seeing dozens of countries changing their laws to permit dual citizenship. There have been countries that allowed it before in the 60s and 70s, but the big shift is in this decade of the 90s. And most likely the most significant cause is a process that is called, in political science, securitization or desecuritization. So securitization is when we view something through the lens of national security. Desecuritization is when something that was treated through the prism of security is looked at through another prism, for example, economics. Citizenship in the Cold War was viewed through a securitized lens. The main question was loyalty. This is a time when many countries had conscription, and they were very concerned with national security given the division of the world between two hostile blocs. In the 3 decades that started in the 90s, the whole global environment was much less securitized, and countries placed a lot more emphasis on economics. So the dual citizen, which used to be highly suspicious from a security point of view, has become someone that is actually desirable from an economic point of view, because dual citizens can connect different countries, they can foster cultural and economic and business ties, and so on. And this discussion, this point, I think, kind of leads us to think about the future of dual citizenship, which I assume many of you already see where I'm going with that, which looks to be something that is actually might be in decline in coming years, because we do see a re-securitization, especially around Central and Eastern Europe, in the countries that are closer to Russia. We see a return to the more security-focused view on citizenship and membership, and this means that at least in some parts of the world, we are going to see either a retreat from dual citizenship, or at least some restrictions on dual citizens.
That's great. It's a really good insight. And especially the good one that I'm now finding, sorry, I'm now passing the ball to Laura. Laura, one of the findings in the report is the shift towards talent-driven investment migration, especially in countries like Canada and Singapore. How does this tell us about the future of CBI programs and how it will shape the investor profile we've traditionally seen?
It's actually, it might not seem so, but it's actually related to what Yossi was telling, because I think now states, because we have this securitization environment, and countries will ask more for giving the rights of citizenship, I think. And because residency is a pathway in many cases to citizenship, countries might explore this possibility and ask applicants or future citizens to give more in qualifying contribution. So that's why we see this shift towards a talent-driven investment migration, because of course states realize they need to attract foreign direct investment, talent, they need to foster their economies, and investment migration is a way to do that. In the past, investment migration was linked to the development of the real estate sector, for instance, but more and more countries want, I think, more long-term investment and long-term contribution. And some examples we have of this kind of programs is, of course, Canada with the startup visa, the UB5 in the US, and Singapore that has a streamline of investment that will require you to transfer or to fund a business in Singapore. Because these kind of investments, as I said, are long-term and are more like active investments than investing in bonds or funds and real estate. Canada startup visa, for instance, will require and prioritize high growth ventures and align with closely with the country's innovation and objectives. And Singapore has been focusing on attracting top tier talent to bolster its position as a global business hub. And then countries will, I think, get long-term benefits from giving away their residency and citizenship rights. I talked about Canada and Singapore, and they have, in many cases, similar investment migration programs when you talk about business. But on the topic related to citizenship, Canada is still a very generous country that will allow applicants to apply for citizenship in with 3 years of residency. And Singapore is on the other hand of the spectrum, because it would take 30 years for a person that is under investment migration program in Singapore to apply to citizenship. Sorry, this is the case of the UAE, 30 years. And the UAE also has a possibility to invest in a business in the country. I also want to cite the case of Spain. Spain, until 2025, had a golden visa program, very similar to Portugal, with the possibility to invest in real estate. In 2025, the country eliminated residency by investment program. But in 2023, Spain adopted a law that is called startup law, where people can get residency in Spain if they invest in a startup company in Spain or bring their startup to the country. So I think we might be seeing this shift to long-term investment and contribution that go far beyond a financial contribution only.
He will be able to join us. So I think I'd like to ask, I'm going to go back to Harpaz, if it's okay with you. So you write about dual citizenship as a kind of insurance policy in times of crisis, yeah? From your perspective, Dr. Yossi, how is this influencing global mobility patterns, and what does it tell us about the broader psychology of today's high net worth individuals and middle-class investors alike?
Right. So now we are shifting to the perspective of the individuals, right? So we're talking about the people who have the option of securing one of these citizenships, and this can be people who are wealthy and can afford to get CBI or RBI. It might also include people who can apply for dual citizenship based on their ethnicity or ancestry. Basically, the idea of the insurance policy refers to the fact that, especially if we look outside the West, if we look at people living in Asia, in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, in Latin America, there is a constant awareness of threats, the potential for instability, which can be financial or economic instability, it can be political instability, it can be war, and people want to, if they have the option, then they want to insure themselves against this kind of threats. One of the clearest cases is the case of Israel, for example, where people are applying for ancestry-based citizenships from European countries that their grandparents came from, and keep it as an insurance policy. This is ancestry-based acquisition, but we also have, for example, we can look at the Chinese, and we see that many tens of thousands of wealthy Chinese have acquired mostly residence, but it's residence visas or citizenship based on financial investment. So basically, this highlights the role of citizenship in providing security. People want to have a plan B because they're not so sure about the country that they're living in. And a lot of the market and the industry of citizenship by investment is based on that insecurity of people living outside the West. Now, a very interesting development that has been going on in the last couple of years is that this insecurity seems to be growing. And in two senses. One, in the regions that were already a bit insecure, insecurity seems to be increasing even more. So, for example, right, we have people in Hong Kong who in 2019, 2020, China started like a wave of repression. So many people used their visas or their additional citizenship or citizenship options to emigrate. The Russians who left in 2022 because they didn't want to be part of the country at war. So the regions that were already a bit unstable are again becoming even more unstable. But we also have this kind of like insurance policy mentality that is also starting to appear in Western countries, most remarkably in the US, where starting with Trump's first term and with COVID, we see that Americans are also increasingly interested in getting residence by investment and citizenship by investment and even these ancestry-based citizenships. And this is another thing that's happening. I haven't seen this in Europe yet, but it's not impossible to imagine. So we see here that from the individual point of view, citizenship is often like a second citizenship, or a residence visa is often seen as a kind of plan B or insurance policy, something that people acquire without necessarily intending to emigrate. Actually, in many cases, hoping that they would never emigrate, that they would never use it, but nevertheless, as something that they feel that they should invest in and should acquire in an increasingly unstable world.
Thanks, Dr. Yossi. We've got some comments here as well. You mentioned the insurance policy not kind of happening in the EU, but I'd like to ask that perhaps the movement that we see of Brits applying for a residency in other countries, mostly as an attempt to be back in the EU market, does that categorize as an insurance policy as well? At least it's in the continent.
Right. No, I wouldn't necessarily classify it in this way. I mean, there has been a huge spike in post Brexit in British citizens getting another citizenship, whether by naturalization, if these are Brits living in the EU, or an acquisition of ancestry-based citizenship from Ireland, for example, or from other European countries. This is kind of an attempt to rectify like the damage that Brexit causes them from their perspective. They had a right and it was taken away, the right of freedom of movement around Europe, and they want to rectify that. I wouldn't classify that necessarily as insurance policy, but you do see in the US and in all of the other non-Western cases that I mentioned, you do see the drive for insurance policy as the main motivator behind these programs.
Okay, thank you. We've got Dr. Solimano back. So I am typing the question that I asked him earlier. Now he will be able to answer.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Well, striking a balance between the pros and cons and trying to maximize benefits of this program while minimizing some of their downsides is not that simple. Well, it was mentioned in the case of Spain that closed the program to avoid, for example, an upward pressure on real estate. Basically, because one of the criticisms of the investment migration programs is that the money goes to finance acquisition of property, and that pushes up prices. And the consequence is that there is a crowding out effect of locals that have to move, that cannot afford apartments or buying houses or renting in good location, prime location, downtown in the cities, and then move outside. This is a real issue where we are facing housing problems in other countries. It's not clear that what is the importance really of investment migration programs quantitatively, but they sort of contribute to this. One solution is the one adopted by the Spanish government is that removing altogether this way of entry. The erosion of tax bases that operates more in the origin country of the investment migration, the migrant. Okay, so there is little that you can do about it. And, I mean, you cannot preclude people from leaving. The only solution would be to move to a sort of more universal taxation, that you are taxed in wherever location you are seated, you are residing, more or less like the U.S. System. Now, I think in terms of the benefits, there is a need to orient the programs more toward real investment in fixed capital formation, rather than just acquiring financial assets, which is an indirect way to create investment that you are not sure whether it will have the positive effects. Startups is a good option. Investment in companies more oriented to the generation of technology is another possibility. The general point is to try to avoid an excessive reliance on financial instruments to receive the money and make sure that the money goes to where you have actual, real, fixed capital uh, investment.
Okay, thank you. Our viewers to know what I'm asking you. So your estate draws attention to the rising of wealth and global mobility of younger generations, especially millennials and Gen Z. So how do you see their values and investment preferences reshaping the future of investment migration? And what should programs do to stay relevant to this demographical shift? Answer.
All right. Jisan, there is evidence, and I put that in my paper, and this is also a further elaborate. There is an IMC working paper which elaborates more deeply into the issue of how the demographics of the affects wealth accumulation and the patterns of investment. But summarizing the findings, I would say three things. First, uh, there, the capacity of accumulating wealth is much bigger for the groups that are the workforce generation X or the baby boomers than the millennials or generation Z. Though there is some respectable capacity in the later two groups to accumulate wealth. Second, this comes from the Modigliani, Franco Modigliani Nobel Prize in Economics theory of the life cycle theory of consumption and saving, okay, where he detects which cohorts have a greater savings capacity and therefore wealth accumulation. Now, in the US, there is a study made by Bank of America using a sample of around 33,000 people in the age cohort between 21 and 43, and an older group. The findings are that around two-thirds of the wealth was made basically by Generation X and the baby boomers. Now, there is a talk of coming net wealth transfer from those two groups, Generation X and mainly baby boomers, to millennials and Generation Z. Okay? So we have to be prepared, and this is relevant for investment migration, but also relevant for wealth planning of different sorts and by wealth analysis in general, that there is a net wealth transfer that should be unfold in the next 10 to 20 years to the younger generation. So the younger generation will have more money to invest in different things and in different countries. Therefore, investment migration should tailor to younger cohorts. And there may be ways to do it, but the main point that I would like to highlight is that target the programs to the younger generation, because the younger generation have more resources coming from inheritance from their parents. That's one point. Another point is the composition of investment. And here you detect important differences between the age groups. The millennials and the C tend to prefer uh, investing in cryptocurrencies, uh, some of them in real estate, and somewhat in bonds. Whereas the older generation, meaning people over 45, 50, 60, etc., tend to prefer stocks, and they don't trust at this stage crypto investment. So you see a nice contrast between the investment uh, vehicles and the age structure of the population. This is basically results for the USA. Okay, this is basically based on the findings of the study of the Bank of America. But you may think that the pattern should be roughly similar for European countries and Asian countries to some extent. Uh, this is important. Now, there is a talk that crypto in the US, President Trump is talking that wants to make America the center of crypto market. So you may think in terms of geographical location, a shift of investment by the younger generation, millennials and people, uh, towards investing in the US. And this may be linked to investment migration programs in that country. Now, the situation in the US we know is complicated, it's a fluid thing. There is a raise in tariffs, and there is a migration backlash, mainly for workers' migration, irregular migrants. The situation is complicated, but at least in the area of cryptos, it seems that it will be an attractive place for the youth. But keep the other considerations of investing today in the US in mind, particularly the depreciation of the dollar, that may help inward investment to the US, and the general uncertainty, political uncertainty, and economic uncertainty in that country. But so bottom line, look at the demographics, very different investment patterns across different groups. And second, the younger generation will receive, is expected to receive a net transfer from their parents, and that will change the landscape in important ways.
Great. However, we're strapped for time now, so I want to wrap up with Laura. So Laura, for those reading the global RCBI report for the first time, what key insight or trend do you hope resonates most with investors, advisors, and policymakers? How should they be thinking differently about global mobility and investment migration moving forward?
Okay, thank you for the question. First of all, I think it goes along with what Yossi and also Andres were saying. When instability is a generator of mobility. And when instability reaches a country in the West, a very important country as the US, we notice that RCBI programs are no longer that niched as they were before. Because when you have mainstream countries or people from mainstream for relevant countries wanted to apply for a second citizenship or a second residency in just in case something goes bad, we're talking about millions of people that would be that would consider investment migration as an option for acquiring a second citizenship or even having a second residency safeguarded. So although we also see that countries will actually require more in terms of contribution for granting residency and citizenship rights, we also see more people wanting to apply and considering to apply to a second citizenship. There is this 2024 Knight and Frank report finding that said that 29 high net worth individuals would consider second citizenship as plan B instrument or tool for their investments. They see that as an investment. So that's one takeaway of the report. When you think about regions, of course, and if you see the CBI ranking, the 5 top positions are in the Caribbean, because we have the long living CBI programs in the Caribbean. In 2023, they signed a memorandum of agreement to impose more strict anti-money laundering measures and transparency in their programs, and they are, let's say, cost-effective programs for people that want to have a second nationality to be more mobile, internationally mobile. When you talk about Europe, we are seeing that countries are more prone to develop residency by investment programs, and this decision in the European Court of Justice shows us that countries need to apply stricter requirements for contribution and even physical presence for the programs to comply with international law, as the court said. But then, if you talk about the 5 top programs in Europe, we were talking about Greece and Malta, because Malta has a very well-established residency by investment program that was overshadowed by the CBI, the main program in Malta. But the RBI program is live and running. We have Switzerland, Luxembourg, and Portugal. That is a very important residency by investment program. So what you're going also to see in the report, if you go online and check the findings of the report, is that the desire and the dream, the desire to relocate internationally is present. When you have more instability in the world, people will think about relocating in other countries, or only have the possibility to relocate in a more stable country. And this is, of course, will require governments, individuals, and the industry to fast adapt to the new needs and dreams of the applicants, and the new requirements of the governments when they establish their citizenship and residency by investment programs.
Thank you, Laura. I think we will wrap up here, but I'd like to leave with you the RCBI report. I believe our team has already shared here, no? But they will share the link at any moment. And whilst they do that, I'd like to thank Dr. Harpaz, Dr. Solimano as well. I'm sure you all, sorry, I just would like to say that your insights were very valuable. And if you're listening to us now and like to know more about their views on investment migration, you will be able to find the essays as part of the global RCBI report. Dr. Laura, thank you very much. Always great to have a conversation with you here. And I hope you found it productive. Again, huge apologies for the issues with the sound here, but I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have still that was not answered, just type here on the comment section, and then it will be answered afterwards. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.